In Dead Moon, a scientist detected a giant comet approaching our solar system as it passed Pluto. Hey, Pluto, remember that one? Yeah, it actually used to be considered a planet. Anyway, this comet eventually crashed into the moon. However, it was not a comet. It was actually an alien mothership which is now hell-bent on destroying Earth and all humans. Why this sudden hostility? Maybe because humans initially launched some nuclear missiles towards I think they mean towards the comet to try and nudge it off course. This might have ticked them off a bit. Dead Moon is a one-player horizontal shooter, a genre on the TurboGrafx that is found quite often. Does this one have what it takes to stand out from the crowd? Well, let's see. First, the weapons. Not bad. In typical shooting game fashion, floating power-up items appear in a stage. There are 4 to choose from: yellow Vulcan, red rings, blue lasers, and green waves. If you snag up to 4 of the same color, the weapon will gradually become more powerful. This upgrade also increases the amount of hits your ship can sustain, downgrading the weapon with each slam by an enemy. Ah! Stop it! The green power-up at higher levels can dominate the first few stages, but you will find the rather unassuming yellow power-up will be your savior in stages 4, 5, and maybe even 6, the final stage. You have bombs you can drop and keep an inventory of. You can also snag multiple missiles, or options that begin with 1, then 2, then eventually spin around the ship. Oh, and let's not forget the special bomb that destroys everything on screen. I love that one. Second, the enemies. They're unique. You have a typical mix of random baddies flying around into nicely choreographed patterns. You have mini-bosses like flying saucers, giant ships, and a strange alien chick. You also have main bosses at the end of each stage. While most enemies appear mechanical in nature, the end bosses are actually a nice surprise. You have pterodactyl skeletons, weird dinos with beating hearts, giant skeletal fish, and fire-breathing turtles. Evil in a half-shell. Third, the game's variety. Now here is where Dead Moon disappoints. I mean, you have some unique obstacles like exploding missiles that seem to fly at the screen, a ship that flips around during boss battles to attack from behind, and the game will calculate your statistics after each stage. But as for interesting and well-designed areas, each stage seems to go from point A to point B with little variation in between. As soon as you begin the game, you will notice some nice parallax scrolling, which is evident in every single stage. It gives the game a great look, with the third stage on the moon being very eye-catching. The details and enemies are pretty good, and the bosses are all pretty unique. Overall, it doesn't look bad. The sound is a little disappointing. No matter what you destroy in the game, it has only a variation of the same boring explosion. I also counted only a handful of other effects. While I do kind of like the end boss music, which gets the blood pumping, the rest of the sound was pretty bland. The game has typical but good controls for a shooter, with button 2 continuously firing and button 1 launching the bombs. Your ship weaves itself around the screen quite well, and it has a nice overall precision. If you are unhappy with the ship's speed, you can also change it in the pause menu up to a level of 3. According to the manual, you have to score enough points in each stage to move on to the next one. I honestly never ran into a problem with this, and I don't think you will either. Dead Moon can be defeated with a little patience and a few continues in about 40 minutes. Afterwards, you are given a disappointing ending and tossed back to Stage 1 with ramped up difficulty. Here, the enemies are tougher and more aggressive. Some just won't die. After beating it, I found myself playing for a couple more stages, and then I was pretty much done with Dead Moon. The problem is the game does not have enough variety to really feed that shooting addiction. The bosses are nice but not terribly difficult. The last couple stages ramp up the adrenaline, but by midpoint in each stage, things do become tedious, and the unlimited continues give you about an hour of enjoyment. Now, this is not to say that Dead Moon is bad, but with so many above-average shooters on the system, especially in this Turbo Technologies era of the TurboGrafx, Dead Moon, much like Pluto, can easily be forgotten. Really great shooting games are a dime a dozen on the TurboGrafx. Dead Moon comes really close. It looks good, it plays good, it has a good length, but it does not have enough spice to really stand out from the crowd. I will admit, it is still fun for an hour, so if you are a shooting fan determined to play them all, then I would definitely lean toward buying Dead Moon.